Hi, everybody. It's a special day again today. I guess every day should be special, but today's really special because it's my old man's birthday. Steve is 69 today, and he might be 69, but when I look at him, I see the guy that I saw across the room when I was 20 and at college, and my heart just started pounding. I thought, that's the guy. He was all in denim, patched jeans, long hair, kind of had a Fu Manchu mustache. I was smitten. I was a goner. So it was my goal to meet this man, this boy that I knew would make my life everything I dreamed of. And the actual meeting happened on my 20th birthday at the Peacock Bar in Corvallis, Oregon. I was 20 years old, but I had my sister's ID so I could go. And it was Dimer's night. Beers were 10 cents a cup, and you could drink a lot of those. And I was sitting at a table, and he came over and started talking to me, and I just about died and went to heaven. We talked about a lot of things, and I was thinking that maybe he, was a little smitten with me too. So when I left that night, I think it was 2 a.m, I was riding my bike home. There's nobody around, and I went through a red light, and I'm riding along, and all of a sudden I hear whoop, whoop, and I realize I'm getting pulled over, and there's a police car behind me. And my heart just froze because I had fake ID. It was my sister's ID. She's like 5 inches shorter than me. We look a little bit alike, but I thought, oh my God. So anyway, it was quite a memorable night. I didn't know you could get pulled over on your bike. But anyway, the rest of my life changed after I met Steve. And he had, one of the things that really attracted me to him was his eyes. His kind eyes, which I knew were the window to his soul. So we dated for a long time, and I never really thought about marriage. I just knew I wanted to be with him. And my daughter asked us how Steve proposed to me, and I said, well, he just kind of rolled over and looked at me and said, I think we should get married. And I said, why? What do you mean? And he said, well, we camp really good together. If we can live in a tent together and be happy, I think we could be happy anywhere. And didn't have a ring. Valerie said, oh my God, that's the worst proposal story I've ever heard. And she is a wedding photographer, so when she tells me the things that people did to propose to their brides or their grooms, it's pretty spectacular. But that's just the way I'm so happy that that's just simple, loving, smart, that he knew we should be together. And my dad, when my dad met Steve, my dad was retired military. And my dad always kept his hair about this short, if we just get the teeniest bit long, and I actually had practically a crew cut too, because I would chew gum at night and get gum in my hair, and I hated to have my hair brushed. I'd cry and scream that it hurt. So I had a pretty short haircut most of my childhood. But anyway, Steve was the love of my life, and that summer I was working at home and in a little town of Silverton, and working at a cannery and a lifeguard at the pool. And Steve was fighting fires in Central Oregon. And they were flying all over the place. It was hot shots. They'd get on a plane and fly to fires everywhere. And that's where he made his money to pay for his college. So he showed up one day at my doorstep unannounced. And I was so excited that he came to my house and he was going to meet my parents. And then I got scared because I thought, oh no, he's going to meet my dad. And I don't know, my dad might I don't know what he would do to him. So just because he was a hippie. So Steve came in, and my mom gave him a glass of wine, and he was meeting all my younger siblings, and I was just so happy. And then I hear my dad's footsteps, which kind of felt like, you know, the giant in Jack and the Beanstalk where the house is shaking and I'm just anticipating this horrible scene when he lays his eyes on Steve's long hair. And anyway, my dad came in and crushed his hand for quite a while, and then he left. And Steve had heard all the stories about my dad from my sisters when we all lived together in college, and we would laugh about how my dad scared everybody. But now Steve isn't laughing; he's scared. You know, his hand was shaking, and the wine was flopping out of the glass. And but I had taught him how to shake hands with my dad. You got to get the drop on him, you know, so he doesn't squeeze your knuckles together and take you to your knees. So my dad disappeared, and I was asking my mom, "Where did Dad go?" And she said, "I think he's in the basement making sawdust, probably down there and butchering some wood somewhere." So I go down and I say, "Hey, Dad, why don't you come up and, you know, you just met Steve, why don't you come up and spend some time with, get to know him?" And he goes, "Yeah, I'm sure he's a nice guy and all, but I want to vomit every time I look at him." So that was the first encounter, but my dad, Steve won my dad over. He grew to love Steve, and he respected him, and you know, knew that I had made a very good choice in my life partner. And I remember when Steve graduated from medical school, my dad loaned him a tie. The funny part about when I married Steve, you know, we were getting married out in the woods, and we were getting married at a place called the Hurlbut Ranch, if you can believe that. Esther and Lou Hurlbut owned this property. It had plum orchards on it. It was at the top of a mountain around Aloha, Oregon. And it was kind of a small hippie affair. And but that particular day, I was terrified. I just wasn't sure, you know, what to do, if I should get married, if he'd really wanted to marry me. It just was something I hadn't really, you know, thought about that much. And here we were getting married, and I spoke to Steve that morning, and I just said, "Are you sure you want to do this?" And he said, "I've never been more sure of anything in my life." And just the fact that he knew it, then I knew it. But the wedding was at, my friend Nikki was renting a place on this property. It was a little log cabin. And I was in the log cabin getting ready, and my friends were in there, and my mother was terrified about people getting drunk because it was Labor Day, and was running in and out of the house saying, "We need to make coffee," because we had lots of champagne. Not a lot of food, but we had a lot of champagne and beer. There was my manager from a restaurant I worked at had given us kegs of beer, and there was going to be a beer fountain where you put the champagne glasses and make a pyramid. And then my dad, later on at the reception, was pouring the beer, you know, from the spigot, and it was making a beautiful beer waterfall or beer fall. But I still had a little worry that my dad had a little reservation about me marrying Steve too. And so I was scared. And my friend Pam, who was taking my pictures for me, gave me a Valium to calm down because my heart was pounding so much. And so I hadn't eaten anything, and I think the pill was hitting me a little harder than it should have. And when my dad came to walk me down the stairs from the log cabin, I was feeling a little woozy, and he had his arm through my arm and was holding me very strongly. I think maybe you could feel my nerves too. And we walked down the stairs, and I was just seeing all the people sitting there, and I just thought, keep your eyes on Steve, keep your eyes on Steve, just get to Steve. And as we were walking, I just had my eyes locked on Steve, and I kept feeling my dad pulling on my arm, like trying to pull me down. And I was thinking, why are you doing this? You know, I thought you liked Steve. I thought you wanted me to marry him after all. And I just was fighting with all my might, trying to stay up. And we were like arm wrestling as we're walking down the path. And then when I thought I was just going to have to punch him or something, he leaned over and whispered, "Duck!" And he pushed me down. And I was heading for the clothesline that we'd forgotten to take down that went from the log cabin to this little barn structure. He was trying to help me. He was trying to keep me from not getting, you know, clotheslined on my wedding day. And I ducked under at the last second, and then I was filled with such love for my dad because I thought he was trying to help me get to Steve. And so that was the best thing I ever did. And today is Steve's birthday, but I feel like I got the gift because he's loved me through everything. I'm not going to cry. Stop, gosh. I just love him so much. He makes my heart so full. And he gave me my children, who are the best gifts in my life. So we laugh about everything. He gets, annoyed with me, I know, especially during COVID, because I just can't shut up sometimes. But I'm not going to shut up about him today. It's just all good all the time. And, we've been together almost 50 years, married 44. And people always ask, what's the secret to your marriage? And Steve says, I'm very patient. So, sometimes he can be a jerk, but he loves me unconditionally, and I'm such a better person because I have him. So I hope you will all wish him happy birthday today. And for those of you that know Steve, everything I'm saying is true. He's the best human on the planet. So happy birthday, honey. I love you so much.